out of Sacramento, California.
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better. Stronger.
Son of a bitch.
Faster.
Oh, yeah!
Hell yeah. It's a little new Metallica.
When's the last time you saw Metallica play live?
Say, I think the last time I saw them live was right after Mad Dog died, like the next day.
A while ago.
I think that's the last time I saw them. Because did I see them on Hardwired to Self-Destruct? No. So I saw them, that was the Death Magnetic tour. And then they had another album after that. Oh, no, I did. I saw them with Sean and Wayne at the Chase Center. So Metallica played with, remember Metallica did the thing with the orchestra?
Yes, it was insane. It was amazing.
Well, and then they did it 20 years later again at the Chase Center. It was the first day the Chase Center opened where the Golden State Warriors play. It opened to a giant Metallica S&M 2, orchestra concert. And so
incredible, right? When an actual metal band with a full orchestra behind them, it's one of the most epic events you can
this was
participate in.
really cool because it was like James Hetfield seemed like he was fine when I was watching the show. But about 3 or 4 days later, he went off to rehab for alcoholism again. And, I would love to introduce James Hetfield to iBogaine. I think that would change his life.
You think it could make a difference in his world?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why am I coming through the speaker?
Because it's on.
The speaker's on?
It's off now.
Oh, okay.
Do you hear it now?
No.
All right, yeah. I had it on a little bit. Usually you don't notice.
So let me explain my Metallica thing, right? So Sean, who owns Dutch Bros, and Wayne, Sean bought tickets for it. He bought like 4 tickets, and it was supposed to be like me, Smelly, Wayne, but then Smelly couldn't go for some reason. He always bombs out everything. So he didn't go, but somebody else came with us. I forget who. But it was just the 4 of us, and we went, and I think the tickets were like $1,000 each, but Sean just paid for them. He didn't care. Because I was like, dude, we have like the best seats in the world. How much do I owe you? And he's like, Boar, you don't owe me anything.
And this was what year?
2019 maybe.
Oh, not super
18?
long ago. Not super long ago.
18 or 19.
Okay.
He was like, Boar, you don't owe me anything. You train with me all the time. You help me with my lifting, whatever. But I was still like, these got to be a crazy amount of money, So anyway, that's what we did. I'm wearing these glasses today because I'm in a macho man mood.
It works though. Can I tell you? It
I've been wearing.
works.
It's funny because I've been wearing these glasses around. I kind of got them because they look like macho man glasses, and it's kind of like a joke. So I got these from a fan actually. A guy that was on Mark's podcast, he was wearing these glasses, and I'm like, dude, those are sick. And then he sent me a pair, which was so cool.
That's really cool. What brand are they? Do you know?
They're Oakleys.
Yeah, those are Oakleys.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And
Oakley's
Oakleys are
still doing it. Still making that.
A lot of Oakleys are real cheesy, and these are kind of cheesy, but I like it.
No, but I mean, I let's just say Oakleys are cheesy, but it's done with such bravado, it works.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think it's fair to say Oakleys are kind of cheesy.
Yeah, well, like, so so I came up in Hermosa Beach, not grew up, but when I was older, I lived in Hermosa Beach, and like all the people that would wear that was like the Orange County sunglasses were like, like the rich Orange County kid that's like kind of a douche, like they were all wearing Oakley. It was like that was a thing.
They were in the boonies where I live.
Yeah,
especially too because
it was a weird crowd that had the Oakleys.
No, but think about this though. We had dirt bike riding, and we had snowboarding. So it really legitimized the brand because that's kind of what they had daily walkers, but their extreme sports was sort of like who they were, right?
Yeah.
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 You were extreme.
Extreme sports were big back then, like in those days,
Yeah, and they're not as big now, but they're bigger in what they are. Do you see what these guys do now? Do you see?
Oh yeah, giant... no, I see it, but I don't know. Is it popular now?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's kind of different popular. It's popular like on Instagram and stuff, like in little short bites and stuff.
You got to imagine how much advertisement does Red Bull get from sponsoring these extreme sports?
Yeah, they were smart by going into that realm. You know? One of the things I want to do is I have a product that I'm going to be putting out hopefully soon, which will have some kratom in it. And it'll be under the name of better, stronger, faster. Most likely that's kind of the route I'm going. Is like keep everything in the same vein. And what I want to do is eventually, like if we can build the company the way I want to build it. I kind of want to do something similar like with the fitness industry, like create content around my brand that's like really cool stuff. Like maybe I go and hang out with Hafthor Bjornsson for a week and just see what that's like and make like content out of it. Like be really cool. And it's just driven by the Kratom company, right? So I go, like, what if I went and like lifted with different people or and it doesn't always have to be me in it either. I would let some of these people, you know, run away with their own kind of content. Like I would love to sponsor somebody like Joey Swole and be like, just keep doing what you're doing and then put our tag on the end. You know, and I want our product to help people too, because I think that a lot of people are lost and don't know where to go and need help. And I think that we should have some sort of organization that's just along the lines with what I do. Just how do you help people? You know, how do you get them out of these ruts? Like I would, for example, if I made a lot of money with this, have an ibogaine, have a deal with the ibogaine clinic in Mexico called Beyond, and I would send people there all the time. You know, just through like, hey, like we create a fund and that fund will pay for people to go get treated with ibogaine that are really suffering. And you just take in letters and emails from people, hear their story, figure out what their story is and say, you know what, you're qualified for this. Let's fix you up. Now, we can't help everyone.
That'll be the sad part is you will experience so many needy, worthy people that the line will be longer than, the wait list will be longer than the availability, unfortunately. But any dent you can make will be
it sure will be, but what you can do is offer the help by like, okay, so say, for example, you write into me and I can't really help you, but I can say, listen, man, you can still go to this place for like half price because we have a deal with them.
Right.
Or you can, you know, or we can, you know, we can help you in this other way that's like cheaper, or, you know, or we create like, also create like ebooks and things like that, like how to get sober, how to get off drugs, how to not have these things be monkeys on your back your whole life.
I think something that you'll do is a sort of a secondary effect will be is you'll spotlight the cause and then probably bring more attention to it, and then maybe other people will also like get involved in seeing that this is a real effective form of treatment that a lot of people could use. And I mean that movement's already started. You'll just be putting wind in that, you know.
I would love to get people to understand addiction better. And I think if you understand that all addiction, every single addiction that we have comes from pain. Like it literally comes from pain. And the body doesn't know the difference. The reason why stress kills us, the body doesn't know the difference really between physical pain and mental pain. Mm-hmm. It damages you either way, right? So your body takes on that stress no matter what. And I think if people start realizing like what their addictions are coming out of, like if my knee hurts and I take Kratom and it feels better, well, that addiction's coming from physical pain. But if I have a void in my life, my girlfriend breaks up with me and I'm crying all day or something, and I take Kratom and I feel, you know, like it's filling like an emotional void, right? So there's always a void that we're filling with drugs, alcohol, or, you know, food or whatever it may be. And I think if more people sort of understand that and can identify, like, what is the source of my pain, you know, I think we can start peeling back those addictions. Also, with addiction, it's very clear that you have to be ready to go. You got to be ready, you know, to end it. And it's the same with anything. It's the same with, like, we talk about with diet or anything. You have to be ready. You have to be ready to go and say, I am willing to take this advice and I'm willing to follow this plan.
Yeah, no, there's 100% truth to that. But also, you know, Kratom or any other substance that pushes you, maybe in my case, TRT or something like that, you know, sometimes those will springboard better behaviors. And it's like, I mean, like the Kratom's not going to get you there. The TRT's not going to get you there. But if it can help you maybe get that first step or two going in the right direction, and then you can find some inertia from that and then pick up, you know, better behaviors. Like we were saying, like, oh my God, dude, I told you, HRT is now mainstream. After Two Bears in the Cave went on that episode,
yeah,
like hilarious, funny. That half the shit they said was completely wrong. But I mean, what attention and normalizing men actually getting, and women, but let's just say men in a kind of a world right now where men's needs aren't necessarily as widely considered as important. But they like, hey, no, get some HRT. A little TRT might help you. And, you know, like Mark was saying, if the behaviors don't come with it, it's not going to really do anything.
Yeah.
But if it can help launch behaviors because you are feeling just a little bit, your natural set point is just a little bit happier, a little bit more energetic, a little bit less stressed, more rested, a little bit better recovered. Like, that is what is going on. And that's what I'm finding in my life.
I would love to have Mark on and talk about this. He said, like, we should actually have him on and talk about 2023, what he says is going to happen. So he says dosages are going to be the new thing. So we've had SARMs come up. We've had peptides come up. And, we've been talking about TRT and all these things. And what Mark says, which is interesting, I don't know if he's right, but what he says is like, no one walks into a room and goes, oh my God, you see that guy? He's on TRT. Like, no one cares. TRT doesn't do anything to make you go, holy shit, look at that guy. It just won't do that. And Mark's like, I think people are going to realize that and say, well, I need to take like 300 or 400 milligrams.
Yeah.
And push it a little bit because like you need enough to actually work and be doing stuff. What Mark was saying to me, now I'm not recommending you this, so don't go on my. Right. He's like, Russell needs like 400 milligrams, so he'll feel fucking great. Yeah. I talked to Hadi yesterday, and Hadi said, you know what? We were talking about you, and he's like, yeah, I'd tell Russell if he was on like 400 milligrams, he would probably feel great because when I first started, I was on that much, and I'd feel great. Now that I'm on 200 milligrams, he's like, I don't feel that good all the time. So I don't know. So it's
we're
interesting.
Really having a discussion on what the minimum effective dose really is. And it might be higher than what is kind of normalized right now.
And I'll get killed for saying this. Like Greg Doucette will see this or something.
Well, he says anything is considered steroids.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, but so if you're, let's see.
So what's the minimum effective dose of TRT as it relates to HRT in men's health and longevity?
Yeah, and I've always thought it was like a little bit low because you do 200 milligrams and you're like barely getting, my testosterone. So I was doing 200 milligrams, right? I stopped for a month because I ran out of stuff and it was a pain in the ass to get it. That's another thing I don't like. It was such a hassle for me to get a bottle of testosterone. You should be able to walk into CVS and say, I need testosterone, and they should be able to hand it to you. You should be able to take as much as you want. I mean,
show that you're 21, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Controlled substance, show that you're 21.
Controlled why, though? Aspirin's not controlled. Like, all these things could kill you in big doses.
Well, some things are behind the counter. I guess, can an 8-year-old just go buy extra strength aspirin?
Yeah.
I suppose so.
Anybody can.
Can't buy alcohol. So you're saying don't even consider it in that. You're saying...
No, but a little kid could buy stuff that can easily kill you. A little kid could go buy a bottle of potassium.
A little kid could buy... I mean, we could eat oil. I mean, poison is around in all different various forms.
And I guess I do understand there's no drive to really do more aspirin, right? Because it doesn't get you high or anything. It doesn't make you feel a certain way. So there's no real drive. Like with testosterone, yeah, you might get people going like, I'm going to fucking do a bunch. But... I don't think so. I think that most people would be afraid to take a whole bunch. And then the people that do, I mean, look, all the deaths from steroids and all these things, I don't think it's coming from testosterone.
All right. I'm feeling super motivated for what I'm about to tell you so much. I even did what I rarely never do. I turned on my camera. So this is how much I want to tell you this. Are you ready for this? There are some adult shit in this world that kids should not have access to, right? I don't think like in the total equation at the end of the calculation, I think you're right. It's probably not very harmful. Then there's so much more harmful stuff that kids can have. I think when it comes to this, where people's feelings and their motives could be so easily manipulated, and it's so easy for people, we've had conversations about these influencers talking about how great peptide and TRT is, and 12-year-olds wanting to get on stuff, right? And they've talked about, there was like some female athlete that she looked like she was on some sort of HRT, and she wasn't even a teenager yet or something like that. I just think make it age restricted. Make it so you have to be 18. I mean, I have this thing where I think if an 18-year old enough to kill or die for your country, you should be old enough to order a Bud Light, right? Let's say Bud Light. But we say no, 21. We think even though you can go kill or die for your country, you're not responsible enough. You can vote for the president, but you're not responsible enough to handle alcohol.
We also put 8-year-olds on methamphetamine in this country. So a lot of people will argue with me saying like they'll say something like, well, you couldn't give a kid kratom. I'm like, absolutely, you can give a kid kratom. You give them ADHD medicine, right? So in my opinion, kratom would be harm reduction from Adderall or Ritalin.
I know a lot.
And it works very similar. It gets you very focused. It does a lot of the same thing. So if I had a kid that was on Adderall or Ritalin, I might decide that like, hey, maybe they should try kratom, right? I don't see any difference.
I'm not super close, and I don't want to put other people's business out there, but I'm involved in a Facebook group where these moms somehow find a way to get the oil extract out of THC cannabis, and they give it to their kids that are really deep into the spectrum, and that they medicate their kids with cannabis.
Yeah,
They
CBD.
were really on the well, no, they're using THC. Both, and I think these are kids with severe behavioral and spectrum related health issues, and I don't know enough to pass judgment on it one way or the other. I know that's the thing about autism. We always see the funny, cute, Sheldon version of it from that that TV show.
We don't.
Some people with autism really have big suffrages.
Well, this is interesting, and I might get slammed for saying this, but we don't have any proof of what steroids do to kids, really, besides like making their dick bigger when they take Anavar. We already went over that.
You got killed for saying that, by the way.
Well, Derek came out with that video, and Derek said that he doesn't think it would work, but he also doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that he can know because we haven't done those studies to see, and we're probably never going to do those studies but however, like, what have they done? I don't know. I have to look this up, but like, have they done studies with prepubescent teens and testosterone? Like, have they done that? I don't know. And could there possibly be an advantage to that because some kids are born really low? If you look at Michael Zampano, he wrote the Underground Steroid Handbook. He was 13 years old. On his birthday, he got a brand new bike. He rode that bike down a big hill and hit a big jump, came back down, landed right on his nuts on the crossbar. And he basically destroyed his testosterone making ability. So that's when he was like 13 years old. By the time he was like 14 years old, he was on TRT as a kid. Now, this guy is really healthy now. He's in his 60s. He's jacked. He, still. Well, he's not jacked still. He's really lean. He's in good shape. He used to be really jacked. Yeah. But now he's just in good shape. And, he's been on TRT ever since he was a little kid.
Here's a
young teenager.
Here's a whole different thing, right? I mean, this is kind of what I was thinking a moment or two ago. What about this gender affirming care that's all hormonally related right now?
Yeah. Okay.
This is really an easy topic for our society to get wrong.
How old is Ryan? 13, 14?
Just turned 14.
14. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, say Ryan was like, "Hey, man, I want to get." I want to be stronger. I want to be more muscular, right? You would never give a kid steroids for that. But however, if they had low testosterone, you may, that might be a thing. But if he wanted to change his sex, that would be allowed. And that's a kind of a crazy thing too, right? I mean, it's
that's kind of what I was saying. I think hormones should be behind an age barrier. Mm-hmm. I understand that in our state, I think...
So vitamin D should be age restricted or no?
Is that... And that's a confusing one, right?
Well, I'm just saying we get into
there's something to be said. All supplements maybe should be age restricted. There's something to be said for that. I mean, we want to promote our kids...
But are you denying a kid health care, like health, if you age restrict supplements? Or are you saying they should... my opinion, right? Here's the best way to do it. A parent should administer almost anything to their kid until they're like out of the house, basically, right? Until they're like.
Listen, I from what Rebecca told me, the age is 12 in this state. I think that's ridiculous. I could see an argument made for maybe 16, but 12-year-olds deciding their healthcare pathways that are going to affect the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
And kids, adults are so influenced. I mean, listening to Joe Rogan talk about it for 3 hours twice a week. Oh, keto. I mean, adults, we're influencers, or called influencers because they influence the masses. I think kids are too subjective. That's why even Ryan, he doesn't know what Instagram is. He's barely on YouTube. I don't want him I'm sheltering him from that insanity for as long as possible. I think it's way too dangerous. I think that there should be barriers for children and let the adults do adult things.
Look at like
keep
Instagram.
The kids a little bit younger, they're a little more naive, a little bit more easily influenced, right? Their judgment's not fully developed yet, right?
I used to be a filmmaker, and I would go out and I would say things for an hour and a half to people. Just spurt information in their face. Like, here you go. Here's all my info. Done. See you later. By the end of it, when they see everything in the context of this movie, they're like, that was amazing. I'm going to give that a thumbs up. Even people like Roger Ebert, who's not into like lifting, said Bigger, Stronger, Faster was only interested in the truth and one of the best documentaries he's ever seen. To me, that's really cool.
That's insane. It's great.
But when I make a post and it's only like, it's like quick, and then I might get 5 or 6 bad comments on it. And then you do another post and you get a bunch of more bad comments. And like I would say, most of my comments are positive, but the ones that are negative have have shaped my self-censorship to where like I don't want to say things because I'm like, well, if I say this, they're going to say this. And
there's so many things I just simply refuse to engage on because I know that at some point, if I choose to engage on that in social media, I'm going to have to deal with someone going, you are a fat ass. You really have no right to speak of this. And on some level, I can kind of see why they say that. But I happen to be a fat ass that's been watching and learning and listening to what experts like you and your brother and the people that you talk to have said. So I'm not, I'm not fully uninformed. So, but I self-censor all the time.
I get the same way because I'll be like, well, I'm not shredded, so maybe this guy is right. Like I'm in good shape and I'm really strong, but like I'm not like, and I think like, well, this is the worst thing to ever think is when I get there, I'll be like this, right? Like, so like when I get shredded, then, it's like nothing will change. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to learn how to get your voice out there and not worry about those bad comments and not, just say what you mean, but it's hard, because there's a lot of pressure on what you say, I think. And
it's too bad because the comment section is something that I just think in general has been spoiled.
It's why I want to go back to making films though. Like the reason I'm going to make a new film is because I can spurt information for an hour and a half, 2 hours and not get any feedback from anyone. And by the time I'm done saying it, you're going to be like, you know what? You're right. Because you've listened to the whole thing.
And you've spent years formulating your thought.
Oh, yeah. The movie that I'm working on now, just so everybody understands, I am working on a new version of Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And I've been working on it since I finished Bigger, Stronger, Faster. So like there's never been like a sit down and work on it, right? Like, I mean, I've been working on it lately. I've been writing a lot and stuff like that. But even as I'm writing, most of it's junk. And then you keep mining out, the good stuff to get to where you want to be. And what I'm realizing is that like, if I want to make a movie about enhancing performance, this is what I want to put in there. Of course, people would love it if I did a 2-hour expose and I went over every steroid and what it does and blah, blah, but only fitness people would like that. What I'm going for is not even that. Like I will be touching on probably like 100 different topics in this movie about how to affect and change your health for the better.
In 90 minutes?
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, we'll go through a lot of stuff. There's a lot. Yeah. But it might be just simple things, Andrew Huberman can do an hour and a half long podcast on sleep or 2-hour podcast just on sleep. I can take that and take Andrew and talk to him and I can isolate the 2 minutes that he's talking about sleep, but maybe he's also talking about a couple other things in there. Getting sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning, like whatever else kind of goes along with it. So maybe we hit like 5 or 6 little things by talking to Andrew Huberman in the movie for 2 minutes, but we've hit a bunch of things. And if you go back and watch the movie, you'll be able to collect all these things. I was also thinking that there probably should be a book along with the movie that explains like a lot of these things. Like if I'm going to talk about sleep in the movie for 2 minutes, well, when you open up the chapter to sleep, there's 10 pages on it. There's more context. There's more information. And maybe we can get people like, what if I had a book that's like the Better, Stronger, Faster manual, and in that book it's got like there's 5 pages from Andrew Huberman, there's 5 pages from Jordan Peterson, there's 5, and like I said, like Jordan Peterson stuff, it might not be them actually writing it, but it might be like based on what I've learned from these people, because I think just as like physical and mental pain aren't different, I also think like physical and mental things to talk about to make yourself better, they're just as important as each other. So like Jordan Peterson's principles about, like, hey, you're not okay, that clip I played the other day when he's like, no, I don't tell people they're okay. You're not okay. You could be way better,
You could be a lot more than you are. You could be so much more than you are that the boundaries of that are unimaginable. That's a way better message to someone who's in despair is what? You're okay the way you are, miserable, suicidal, nihilistic, hopeless, amotivated, resentful. It's no time for a maternal embrace. It is in a sense, because there's comfort in that. Mostly what that's time for is the clarion call to maturity.
Those things are just as important as get enough sleep. Those little tidbits of information where you're like, you should learn something every day. I think if people just said, I want to learn something every day, their life will be infinitely better. And you really, strive to do that. But what I want to get into today is something that really changed my life, and that would be barefoot shoes. So I'm going to have to take my shoe off to show you guys. Can you see that?
Oh, that's a new pair. Those are looking...
Can you pull me up on the screen here so I can see?
Absolutely.
I got to see what I'm doing here. All right. So barefoot shoes. What is a barefoot shoe and why? These actually match my shirt. Look at that. I'm stylish. These shoes are called Field Grounds. You can see in there. I don't know if you can see that, but it says Field Grounds. And the reason is you can actually feel the ground. If you look at this shoe, I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing to it. It's just a tiny little sole that stops me from getting glass in my feet or rocks in my feet. And when I walk on this, what's really interesting is your toes should be like this, but everybody's toes are like this. They're all squished in a pair of pointy, Nike shoes. And it's really uncomfortable, Every Nike shoes I have, I love them, but they're so uncomfortable because they really kill my feet. I used to have to wear a size and a half up, like I'd wear a 10 and a half or something because my feet are so wide.
I have to wear 15s when I'm really a 12.
And then I switched over to Hokas, and Hokas are like these rocker shoes, like they rock. Like it's supposed to like help propel you when you walk, but nothing propels you when you walk like your bare feet. And if you're walking, your big toe, say this is your big toe, it should be like digging into the ground. It should be like it's weird. You're almost like an inchworm, right? Like how an inchworm moves. That's how our feet work. Like the big toe grips the ground, propels you forward, grips the ground. I've never felt that in my entire life until I switched over to these shoes. Now these shoes are I think they're like $90, $100, something like that.
I mean, they're pretty reasonable considering how expensive shoes can really get.
Yeah, and what happened to me that was amazing is I bought these. Mark bought me a pair of these. Mark was like, hey, you got to fix your feet. You need barefoot shoes. Now, the reason I need barefoot shoes is because the arch of a regular shoe is pushing up into my foot and destroying my foot. And then when I'm like this, my foot cramps because it's like a fake arch and my feet will cramp up. So if I pull a sled with a pair of Hokas on, my feet will just kill. Like the middle of my foot just is burning so bad. I know people that have had plantar fasciitis. I have a friend named Billy who's lost a bunch of weight. He's in our group, and Billy got the Field Grounds on his feet, and it completely changed his life. Now, we tried them on you, and your feet are too damn big.
My feet are too
So
big.
we got to find you, another brand or another type of shoe that works like that.
Ironically, I'm not wearing them today, but they might be called Profit shoes. Very wide, very spacious. Their double wide is a real double wide, and so they've been working for me. And
that's great. That's maybe what you need is just a wider, base, and then maybe a flat. I think when they're flat on the bottom, not just being flat, but flat with like kind of a thin sole, is great. But if you're gonna run, I would recommend. Mark doesn't recommend to wear these kind of barefoot shoes for running, but there are some brands like Vivo Barefoot. There are brands like, what's the other brand? Vivo Barefoot. Mark has another pair of
those Solomon sandals.
Well, Shaman sandals. They sell those on the Power Project website. So that's a great thing for the summer. Like if you want a shoe for the summer, go on Mark Bell's Power Project and get the Shaman sandals because they made them exclusively for Mark. And I think you have your own pair, don't you? Didn't you get them?
Yeah. So they're in transit right now.
Oh, okay.
They had to cut me a custom pair. My foot is so wide, I was off their charts with width.
Is your foot too wide or too high? Or both?
It's both. I'm a hippopotamus, and it's embarrassing. So they cut me just this ridiculously wide pair of sandals and sent them to me, and they didn't realize to make the strap proportionately longer.
Oh, so your straps had to be 3-4 inches longer than the normal one.
No, Chris. Their strap they sent me was 13 inches, and that's basically supposed to start at the corner of your top right foot, kind of like the widest point of your foot, wrap around to your outside ankle. So it starts at your inside toe, kind of like that part of your foot, wrap around to your outside ankle, and then return and flap over. The one they sent me was 13 inches. To cross the foot, go through a little hoop, and wrap around and cross back open. I need them to make a custom strap that's 24 inches long to fit me the way the 13-inch long is supposed to fit. That's how misshapen my foot is from having to carry my size weight for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So God bless them. I mailed them back the shoe just a few days ago, and they're going to insert a new strap and send it back to me. All because they're sweet people. I'm not paying a dime for it. The shoes, I think, are around $80 or $120, something like that. probably worth every penny, but out of the goodness of their heart and knowing Mark, and a thank you to Mark for his love, the guy Josh over there that owns it is sending to me a pair for free.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is like with the company Field Grounds, I'd love to get involved with them. I'd like to be, I only like to push things on people that I use all the time, and I have not changed out of these shoes. Well, I have changed out of these shoes, and once I changed out of them and went back to Hoka's for a day, I went back for a day, and my feet couldn't even handle it. So maybe eventually my feet will feel good enough I can go back to wearing those kind of shoes. But I just, said forget about the style. I don't really care. I actually like the way these look. They're really simple and really clean. So I got this brown pair. I also have a white pair, and they're great. They just feel good. What is this?
I wanted to show you this. Your Gorilla Mind. I wanted to hear what you thought of it.
Oh,
because here's the thing. My pre-energy workout drink has been, it's been either Kratom or a white Monster energy drink.
Yeah.
And I started listening to his breakdown. This is not just an energy drink. This is a pre-workout in a can.
Yeah, nootropic and everything. Yeah.
So it's a nootropic, it's a pre-workout, and it's an energy drink, kind of all in one, and has the sudsies feels to it.
It's funny because people write on here. Look at my friend Ace Vader. He wrote, the artwork is bad. The name is worse. Good to know it tastes great. It's like, come on, dude. So that guy, actually, he's the guy that made the shitty Tupac hologram that was too jacked. Remember? So it's like, well, hey, what if I dog your Tupac hologram? It's like, why do you have to say something negative about it? It's like, I just don't like that idea.
I think he's ridiculous. I wanted to say the other R word that we used to say, but I realized we're better people now.
I'll tell you
that artwork is sick. That is very cool looking artwork.
I think it looks pretty cool. I'll tell you what I disagree with that comment is where I do agree with that comment. The cans are like plastic wrapped kind of, and I think it should just be a aluminum can, but that might be way more money. It might be a different do you know what I mean? They have like a it has like that the shiny
vinyl wrapped. It looks vinyl wrapped like a car.
Which is
I think it's slick.
Which I don't know, maybe to me I just felt like that was a little bit weird, but
the color scheme is really cool. I like the black cherry. I know they're not all black, but the white on black with the cherry vanilla is smart. The brain kind of shows the nootropic, and it's a gorilla. And everybody that lifts weights wants to be compared to a gorilla. I mean, I don't know. How did it taste?
It tasted really good. But Gorilla Mind is actually from, kind of funny. It's from, what's his face? What's that guy? Cernovich?
Who? Help me. I don't know.
Gorilla Mindset. Like he has I think if you look up Gorilla Mindset, it's Mike Cernovich, who's like a really right wing, kind of guy. I think he's a partner.
Like jungle military gorilla style? Is that what we're talking about?
No, like gorilla mind, have like a gorilla mindset, but I forget what it actually means. We might have to look it up. It's just funny that people write people you post something and people you post something, and if somebody likes you, they're gonna go on and say something negative, but they like you. So you're like, why are you saying something negative about my shit? You know what I mean? Like you're like, that's what I'm saying about my guy. I'm like, you're kind of an asshole.
And I think he was probably
you're kind of a dick. Good
Yes.
to know it tastes great. Like I might have made that kind of same comment. Like, hey, that can't. It's like, and I'm trying not to be that guy ever again. But I guess there's like a little bit of, I think people get triggered when they see certain people's things, like maybe Derek has too much success. So like I said to Derek wrote on there, hey, my man, I'm glad you like it. And I wrote back to him, I said,
I saw that.
You deserve all the success you've earned, because he's earned it. He's not getting success because he's there. He's getting success because he's putting out really good, important content for the past 10 years, 7 years. I don't know how long, but for a while, he's been putting out a lot of really good content. And I think that he's earned his way to having his own energy drink. He's earned his way to doing all these things, just like Mark has earned his way to the platform that he has.
Well, and he's established himself as sort of an expert in the field, right? I mean, I think
kind of the only expert in the field. Listen, man, I don't know anyone that actually knows shit about steroids. It is really, really, really rare that someone actually knows what they're talking about with all this stuff. When I ask people about steroids, the answers are always kind of like half-assed, you know? So it's like or they don't know about it because they've never used it. That's like another problem. I think the best people to talk to about steroids are guys like Pete Rubish, who was just in here yesterday. Pete Rubish was on so much shit.
The nicest guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Legitimately humble and
he's
kind.
He'll be here today also.
Oh,
I think he's podcasting with them today.
Nice.
And Pete Rubish deadlifted like 897 pounds or something crazy like that. And just a, like, you know, great dude. But what was I talking about before that? Because I had a point about bringing him up.
You're saying that the people that know the only people that seem to know about steroids are guys that have taken them.
Yeah. So when I was talking to Pete, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna do this new movie. You should talk about tren." And I'm like, "Well, I actually have a whole section on tren because I think tren is a different drug. I think I don't like to blame anything on a drug necessarily." But if you're going to use steroids and you decide to use trenbolone and you end up being an asshole to people and treating people really badly and wigging out about stuff that you shouldn't wig out about, then it's probably not a good idea to use trenbolone. So I wouldn't.
It's just too like mentally unpredictable.
It changes people, man. I saw this one girl wrote into More Plates, More Dates, and she wrote that she was abused by her husband. And then a bunch of people on there like ganged up on the lady, like, "Oh, it's not true, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "No, my husband was on trenbolone." And then as soon as she said that he was on trenbolone, I think people kind of backed off. They're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." It's not, because I don't think roid rage exists. Roid rage is a term made up by the medical community to justify people's actions. I mean, it's made up not by the medical community, by the journalist community. Like it's a term made up by journalists. Roid rage.
It's the assault rifle of the health and fitness world.
Yeah. Why do you need an assault rifle? You know, like what? And so it's like that. Yeah. So I think that they use roid rage for their own, you know, reasons, or try to get steroids banned or whatever. But I've never seen anybody rage out on testosterone. They're always raging out on trenbolone or other serious drugs, like maybe halotestin's one that people flip out on too. But our president John F. Kennedy was on halotestin, you know, because he had different illnesses that helped with. So it's like it can also be good. You know what I mean? Is it always bad? I don't know.
And that sort of brings up, if it's good for someone who's ill to be better, why can't it be good for someone who's doing okay to also be better? That
was the interesting thing that I said I don't know if I believe when Derek went over the Anavar situation. So I said that these kids would take Anavar and their penis would grow longer, but all these kids had stunted growth. There were kids with stunted growth that they did it to. So he was saying, well, if you don't have stunted growth, it wouldn't work in that same mechanism. But I'm not exactly sure why. He says why he thinks that, but I'm not so sure, because like I said, they actually haven't done those studies, so it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, the what if. I mean, the what ifs are. The point you made was really valid. I mean, obviously it got his attention, and he was like, "No, I see where you're going with that. I saw that, read that report." Who knows, man?
Well, how do you tell kids to not take steroids when you know it'll actually make them stronger? I mean, you don't really want to lie to them, Mike. So it's like, how do you just got to explain to people, like, it's not good for you at your age. You're going through developmental processes that, you know, it can mess up. But then again, you see somebody come up and they're like Kenny, and he's got really great genetics and really great ability and could possibly be a professional bodybuilder one day, and that's what he wants to do. You know, do you shit on his dreams, or you just you know, stick to yourself and worry about yourself and your own health,
I think we're talking about what age of human development, right? Are we talking prepubescent? Are we talking during your adolescence? I mean, like, don't you want, isn't that sort of like that was always the old answer? I don't know if you guys really meant it or not, but you old gym heads, build out your natural body to its fullest first.
Sure.
And squeeze out all your own genetic potential, raise your own natural set point as far as possible.
In my mind,
and then build on top of that.
In my mind, you can't really do that until you're about 20. Like at least 20.
That
so
feels reasonable to
at
my
least
ear.
At least it's pushing it back a little bit. Now, I would say that I think with all drugs, like my opinion on all drugs, ever since I went to rehab, was 25 years old. Once you turn 25, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use any drugs or drink or anything before you're 25. That's kind of probably impossible for most people. However, I would limit all the use of drugs and alcohol until after I'm around 25 because your brain is fully formed. You can make better decisions, and you didn't have drugs influencing those decisions when you were younger.
I don't want my little Randall not being able to make good decisions for the rest of his life. So I don't want him to find out daddy's got his little cannabis corner out in the garage and start hitting daddy's dab rig or whatever daddy has until and maybe never, but at least until he's 25, right?
Yeah.
That would be, in a perfect world, that would be the right answer. Not because of some moral judgment I have over him, but because I want to let his brain develop and have him have the best opportunity to have a fully functional, healthy adulthood. Where does steroids affect all that? Where does steroids affect your liver? I mean, we're also seeing, this is sort of a different thing, but look at all these bodybuilders that can't walk anymore into their 50s. Look at all these obese fatties that can't walk into their 50s too. So on both extremes, there's problems with it, but we don't want I just want these kids to be healthy. You know what I mean? And like other things I was saying to you before, I don't trust the decision process of a child.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, children shouldn't have their own personal sovereignty, and I think is somewhat restricted until we think they're old enough to be able to deal with the consequences of their decision.
Here's an interesting question. I have a question for you as a dad. Okay, so Steven Crowder's getting a divorce. This came up on his podcast. I don't know if you saw any of this. And he's actually it was kind of weird because he's really upset that his wife could actually ask him for a divorce and he has to grant it. It's almost like he wanted to enslave her. He's like, she wanted something different.
We said
and
she vowed to me till death do us part.
That's kind of how he is. She promised me. Now look, and he goes, it's all my fault because I chose wrong. And you're like, wow, man, that's like a real, his kids are going to see this, You chose wrong, or maybe he's an asshole. He's an asshole to everybody on his show, right? So why, do you think he's not the same at home? Maybe.
Yeah, I feel you.
The question I have from that is, do you own your kids? Because they were saying, look, you don't own your wife. That's not you. But you call it your wife.
Well, I think I do own my wife as she owns me. We kind of own each other. It's a mutually agreed.
But
I tell you what to do. You tell me no.
She's not your slave.
Well, that's the thing. Do I have the right to spank my kids? Do I have the right to say you're not allowed to do that to my kids?
At what point do you still own your kids?
I know.
Right? Because it's that's interesting. When they turn 18, are they no longer your kids and they're just people? It's so weird to me because I'm thinking about it. I go, what? I wonder what people think because you can't enslave somebody, but yet you say that's my kid. I own that kid. But do you own them?
I made my kids.
Yeah.
I made my kids, and my kids were and are 100% dependent on me to not die.
Yes.
And it's my it's my responsibility to set them up to have the most likelihood to reach their fullest potential and have happiness and not be homeless on the street as an adult.
But you kind of do own your kid, right? Because you couldn't you kind of do own them and are responsible for him because that kid can't just go off on his own.
I tell this to my son all the time. I go, hey, look, dude, I want you to understand. Once you turn 18, you can tell me no when I say let me see your phone, but I am still going to see your phone whenever I want. You have because
you're paying the bill too, right?
Well, it's
that's part of it.
I don't evaluate that, and honestly, because I don't really have a job. Rebecca's paying the bill. If you really want to talk about it, right? I go, listen. You have privacy in the bathroom. That's where your privacy ends. And as he gets older, you think about it though. When a child was an infant, you wouldn't keep him more than a foot away from you. It starts there.
Do we stunt kids though by by
helicopter parenting?
Well, look, when I was young, it was we were really religious, and it was a no to have porn or anything like that. So my brothers and I don't know about Mark, but Mad Dog and I, we had so much porn when we were kids, under our bed and all, because my mom was no, 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 no. And we were find it in our uncle's, bathroom when we go to my grandmother's house. Be I'm stealing this. You know what I mean?
And it was because he knows a lot about this.
Yes,
stuff.
and it was because we couldn't have it. I was a real late bloomer because my parents never sat down and explained to me the birds and the bees. My parents were embarrassed because they were Christian, so they never explained any of that to Mark or I or Mad Dog, and we had to figure it all out ourselves, which is impossible. So
right.
When I went all through high school without ever having a girlfriend. I didn't go to my prom. I didn't ask girls out. I was too shy to even talk to a girl. So it was I was never taught that this is how you treat a woman. This is what you do. I learned all that myself. And not that my dad wasn't a good dad. I feel like my dad was embarrassed to talk about that stuff with his children because he was like a Christian.
When I got caught dipping into my grandpa's Playboy magazine, and all of a sudden my grandparents who raised me realized, oh, this kid is molesting himself every single night. I shouldn't say that word. That's probably inappropriate. But, he came into the room to try to have the talk, and I sent him right out of the room. I was like, no, you're too late, man.
Yeah.
You should have been here like a year ago.
Yeah, I've been whacking off for 2 years.
I've been
what are you doing?
Whacking off for 2 years, and you're too late, dude. I've had the talk with my eldest son a few times, just little bits at a time,
and I'd say that I've carried that over into adulthood where like I've had periods of my life, like when I was a drug addict and alcoholic, I was definitely addicted to porn. I was on porn 24/7 because there's nothing else to do. Like you get high and then you're like, okay, let me go.
Here's the scary part. People build a tolerance to it.
Well, even when I had a
part.
girlfriend, I'd be like waiting for my girlfriend to leave. Like I would wait. Hey, is she out the door? Well, good, okay.
So you could get the actual nut you were looking for.
Yeah, but my girlfriend, like, I don't know, every girlfriend I've had was pretty good looking. Like, there's no reason for that. There was no reason, So it's like, I don't know why I would do those things,
Well, like you said, you got addicted to porn.
Well, you get,
and that's another thing.
And where does addiction come from? From pain. And where does that pain come from? From when I was a kid and I wanted my dad to teach me those things. I was never taught that.
Doesn't addiction just come from like serotonin releases? Like you ring a bell, you feed a dog. You ring a bell, you feed a dog. I mean, it can be that too. Like maybe the dog was,
the real great thing to know about addiction is you have dopamine and serotonin. And I would just look at it as like, it's not always, but like dopamine's kind of the bad guy. Where do you get a dopamine hit from? When you eat some Skittles, when you smoke some weed, when you smoke a cigarette, like you're getting these dopamine hits from these things. When you get a like on Instagram, you get a dopamine hit. You don't get serotonin from that. But when your mom comes up to you and gives you a big hug and tells you how much she loves you, even if you don't realize it, you get a serotonin release from that. Even if you hate it and you're trying to reject it, you still know that you're loved. It's a weird thing. And then that produces serotonin. And when you're all mushrooms do, which by the way, I'm inviting you. Is there a fight this weekend?
Yeah.
All right. We got to do some mushrooms then.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. I'm in. It's on record.
But yeah, because I wanted to do it with you on a fight day so that you can come over. We can do them and hang out, do some mushrooms. And then by the time it's like winding down, we'll be watching fights, but we'll be fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That way you can do a good dose.
So I'm going to I don't know how much you want to keep going on this, but I feel the need to say this. I have a friend who just this morning I had a conversation with, a friend who will remain nameless, a friend I love and adore, who's been starting to drink a little regularly lately.
And didn't used to.
Not really. Had a bad night, swore it off for a few years. And I said to this friend, I go, look, I know you're not an alcoholic. I know you're just having fun. I go, but this is the sort of thing that eventually it might make an alcoholic out of if you keep going to it. So you probably should establish some fence lines right now. Like, I only get drunk on Fridays, Friday night fuck-its, or this person said, well, maybe twice a week. What about Wednesdays and Saturdays? I was like, okay, sure, Wednesdays and Saturdays. But you start turning this into a 4-night-a-week thing, you could very well soon have a problem. And I go, look, I know you're not an alcoholic, but you don't need that in life. You don't need to have to start catching meetings to keep your life from falling apart. You're busy enough as it is. You don't want to have to catch meetings to keep from being strung out on the street. So just, hey, I mean, and I'm just relating that I can drink, but relating that to porn, you keep doing it enough. You keep watching it enough. I think eventually it starts calling to you saying, hey, come get me. Come get your
or like,
fix.
you'll think about it when you're not, you'll leave the house for the day and you'll think like, oh man, I got to whack off. It's like, why did I think that? It's like, I don't know. But those are, I think like porn addiction and like addiction to the phone and the internet is just as brutal as being addicted to a drug. It's the same shit, man. Yeah. It's all the same. It all pull.
Some hit heavier.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Some things hit heavy.
Yeah.
Alcohol, porn, those could be.
Porn to me is probably the most embarrassing. Like it's for some reason it's embarrassing because it's weird because like to me it was never about like, oh, you can't get a girl. Like it's not it's just embarrassing for some reason, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's
mean,
always been
sort
embarrassing. Like you're a little kid. If you're a young kid, the last thing you ever want to do is get caught jerking off.
I think
and then,
sometimes a healthy amount of shame is a good thing in life.
Why does anybody tell on people when they catch them jerking off? Like, oh, I caught Russell jerking off. It's like, but like you do it too, though. I think everybody does it.
Yeah, and I tried having that talk. You know, I read in a book somewhere that 1 out of 10 guys don't jerk off. Maybe.
I mean, there must be like Ned Flanders.
I take those odds. If it's 9 out of 10, I'll take those odds.
I'd say 1 out of 100.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Right? Maybe. I just think it's one of those things. First of all, jerking off is. I've told my son, like, you can go in the shower, do all you want. You're not bringing your phone with you. That's what I've told my son. Like, as far as like, you know, your version of what your dad said to you, like, don't, you know, your dad said, don't wank yourself or you'll go blind. I just told my son, hey, look, dude, you're not bringing any magazines. You're not bringing any phones into the bathroom. I go, I will never knock before I open your bedroom, and I will never open the bathroom door on you without you saying, come on in first.
Why do we want to shield our kids? Like it's interesting. Like they're eventually gonna see it anyway, but like your parents take it away like whatever. So I'm wondering like why like.
That's for the same reason why I don't let my 9-year-old watch Rambo. I mean, those are intense images for a young developing mind.
Yeah. No,
like one day I'm going to watch fucking Rambo with Randall, and it's going to be awesome.
I'm saying that the fact that you're taking it away from your kid and looking at his phone makes him want to do it more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but but look at what happens to kids that are left unmanaged, unsupervised. They go wild, they go crazy.
They become multimillionaires.
Or they become criminals and degenerates.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I think the multimillionaire is I think those multimillionaires became multimillionaires in spite of what happened to them, not because of what happened to them. So.
Yeah, some of them might be because, you know.
Maybe.
You think like 50 Cent, he had a kind of a crazy life, and it's kind of what made him what he is, right?
Yeah, you know, but look at all the production companies that he had afterwards, and look at his business acumen and his ability to talk shit on social media. I think he would have been just as successful if he grew up, you know, in any other zip code with less crime. If he grew up
rich, he wouldn't be him. You know what I mean?
No, but he'd be maybe. I mean, for sure, our past makes us.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I don't think that it's not necessarily what David Goggins went through that made him David Goggins. David Goggins is just.
It is interesting that when Mark was coaching football, we can close on this. A couple parents, you know, they'd always want their kids to be better, you know. And they came up to Mark and they asked him, like, how can my kid get better at football? And Mark's like, drop him off in the hood. And they get mad at him.
The kid is soft.
And
he's a soft kid.
Like, that's what it is. Your kid is soft. He doesn't want it bad enough. So you drop him off in the hood, and he realizes, like, oh, this is what I'm up against. Then that's when you flourish, you know. So I thought that was an interesting, funny, smelly comment. But yeah. All right, buddy. Well, let's take off and get out of here.
It's good talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you, buddy.